I've had my MG ZS EV now for about 3 weeks and I'm absolutely loving it, but today is a very important day for me because I've finally had installed my electric charger. During the weeks that I've had my electric car, I've lost count of the number of times that people have asked me how long does it take to charge the car. My answer often surprises them. I tell them 1 minute and they kind of look at me wondering whether they've heard me correct. So I explain. When I get home, maybe once or twice a week, I just go to the front of the car, open the charge hatch, take the charge lead and plug it in. It takes me about 20-30 seconds, and then the following morning I go back to the front of my car, unplug, close the charge hatch and then wind away the cord, which takes me a little bit longer, maybe 30-40 seconds to do. That's about 1 minute in total. Compare that to, say, filling a petrol car and it's no time at all. I may need to have to charge a little bit more often, about 3 charges for every 1 fill of petrol. But I don't have to go out of my way to do the charging. I don't have to pull into a petrol station. I don't have to queue for the petrol pump to become available. I don't have to stand there for several minutes filling the vehicle and then go off and pay before finally making my way out to the petrol station. It takes very little time at all. When I bought my car, MG had a fantastic offer, something which they, I think, referred to as their peace of mind offer, which included a free charger. In theory, I should have had a choice of either a PodPoint or a Rolex charger, but it didn't quite work out that way, to be honest. Now, let me just say that I thought that in most respects, my dealer that I got the car from was absolutely fantastic. But if I was to criticise them about one thing, it would be that they kept me a little bit in the dark when it came to the free charger. They contacted some electrical installers for me and arranged for them to get in contact with me, and basically they offered me the Rolex charger rather than the PodPoint one. Now, I wasn't too fussed about that because, having done a bit of research already, I had decided that Rolex for me was probably the better charger to go for, so I was fairly happy with that. There was a bit of a wait. It took them about a week after I'd got the vehicle to actually get in touch with me. They phoned me up and I gave them a few details, and then they sent me an email, and it was a case of me clicking on a link in the email and filling in a form. Now, to be frank, the online form that I had to fill in was not exactly straightforward. There was a lot of information that was required, some of which was a little bit repetitive and some of it was highly technical. I understood the kind of things that it was referring to, but I imagine that a lot of people wouldn't have a clue what the answers to some questions were. Some of the things I had to get by looking at some of my electricity bills. Some of the answers I had to get by actually looking at my fuse box and adding up the values of the fuses. I also had to know where to look for things. One of the most frustrating things about the procedure, though, was I had to take a lot of photographs, but the form didn't tell me what photographs I would need beforehand. Rather, what would happen is I'd go onto a page and it would say, take a photograph of this, that or the other. I'd do so, and then on the next page it would ask me to take yet another photograph of something rather similar. So it was incredibly frustrating, and something which should have taken maybe 5-10 minutes to do actually ended up taking me over half an hour. Having filled in the form, the electrical installer then contacted me back very quickly and arranged a date for the installer to come and set up the device. The date set was about 3 weeks after I collected the vehicle. The installer turned up. He did a great job. We discussed where the charger should go. I'd already come to a decision about that, but we looked at one or two other possibilities as well before settling on what I'd originally thought of. I was a little bit nervous because the charger, the Rolex charger, does require a mobile phone signal, and I live in an area where, to be honest, the signal isn't great. When I filled in the online form, there were questions about the strength of your Wi-Fi and the strength of mobile phone signals, but it tended to be along the lines of, do you get a good signal or not? And to be honest, the signal where I am, I get one, but it's not strong. It's somewhere in the middle. Fortunately, the device seems to have a very good mobile phone aerial built into it, and so I've had absolutely no difficulty in it connecting to the internet. Once the charge point was installed, it was then a case of downloading an app. Now, the app isn't needed to use the charge point as a dumb charge, but it is needed if you want to access any of the smart functionality of the charge point. The app itself is called ev.energy. It's not made by Rolex, it's actually a third-party app, which I think can serve a number of different charging solutions. Once the app is downloaded, when you open it for the first time, you're asked to enter a few details, your full name, your email address, and set a password as well in order to create an account. Now, in my case, because the charge point installer had already registered my email and linked my email to the charger, once I'd entered those details and created the account, things worked. Or more or less they worked. It did take about 4 attempts to actually set up the account. There was some problem, I think, at ev.energy's end to do with their server, but eventually, once the account had been set up, it worked fine and it's been flawless ever since. Now, being frank, at this moment in time, I'm only using my charger as a dumb charger. I'm not using any of the timer facilities or the smart charging ability of the charger, and that's simply because I don't have a smart meter, and so I'm not able to use some of the tariffs that exist, such as Octopus's Go tariff or their Agile tariff. But from what I can see, using smart charging is fairly straightforward. What you do is you just click enable, and then you can either set the charger so that it will always complete charging by a certain time, and knowing your make of vehicle, the charger will then start charging it at an appropriate moment so that it's always finished by the time that you want it. Alternatively, you can set a timer so that it starts timing in the middle of the night. You can set it so that it will charge at times of day when most electricity is being generated by green resources, or you can link it to your electricity account so that it will receive, or rather ev.energy's servers will look at the price of your tariff and set your vehicle to charge at whatever is the best moment. Now, at this moment in time, I'm not using that, but certainly at some point in the future, I will probably want to start moving towards such a tariff. And when I do so, the smart ability of the charger is going to be very, very helpful. The unit itself, I think, is lovely. I think it's quite elegant, fairly small, fairly inobtrusive, although I've not exactly placed it in the most elegant surroundings alongside my bins. To be honest, it is an area where it's fairly discreet, it's out of the way, it isn't going to get noticed too much, and it's convenient and close to where I park my car. Now, I should point out that whilst the charger was supposed to be free, that free only applies to a standard installation. Now, my installation wasn't too complicated, but it did require the fitting of an extra RCD to my household supply, and as a result there was a surcharge. I had to pay about £160, but to be quite honest, I was happy to pay that. So, am I happy with it? Well, to be honest, if I hadn't got that charger free through my deal with MG, I would probably have gone for a different charger. I would probably have gone for the Zappi charger because I have solar panels. I hear that Rolex are going to release their own solar panel charger at some stage, but when I talked to people about it, there was no time frame for that. Now, I'm not saying that the Rolex charger is a bad charger. I think it's great. It just wasn't the best charger necessarily for what I've got at home. But having said that, it was free. It hasn't cost me anything, and I thought it was far more sensible to get a charger for free rather than spending a few £100 on a charger when I could be spending that few £100 on electricity to charge my car. If I'm entirely honest, although solar can help me to save electricity, I don't think it's going to save me the amount of money I'm going to be saving through using a free charger. So, do you have a home charging unit? If so, which one? And what do you think of it? Let me know in the comments below.